We're here. Everything's looking good video-wise, so everybody that's watching the video and catching all this awkwardness, hello, welcome. No Danelle this time, but we're recording. We have our first phone in. This is going to be awesome. It's somebody very special, near and dear to my heart. I have known this guy for 27 years, if you can believe it, since about the 1996 era. Not doing ages or anything here, but really cool guy, heart of gold, very honest, very true. He's probably, next to Danelle, the only person I can really be open and honest to, and probably the only other person that can call me on my crap and all that sort of stuff. So that's always good to have a friend like that. And not only is he a friend, but he's a very talented actor, photographer, comedian, improv, and creative, and just other things in life, which we're going to get into. So without further ado, I am going to welcome my best friend, Mr. Paul LeVan. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
So have you ever done a podcast before?
Yes, but it was a very technical one, so maybe not as fun.
Oh yeah, this is going to be, just to give you a heads up and remind everybody that watches this, this is very casual. We're going to put out as much as we can. We don't want it to be 4, 6, or 8 hours long, but we're going to do the tales. I want to remind everybody out there that Kurzology is all about connection. Kurzology is all about tales, talking to people, having the guests so that we can have the tests that they've gone through, adventures, the lessons, something that entertains them, and successes, whatever their definition of success is. So we'll get to that a little bit toward the end. However, so Paul, you are currently in, well, let's do a little bit, tell a little bit about yourself. You do, if you were to give you your intro that you didn't like what I just gave, what would you say about yourself?
Jack of all trades, maybe. I mean, realistically, for those of you that don't know me, I mean, I'm curious about everything. I like to try as many different things as possible, which is partially why I get accused of having too many hobbies. So that might have something to do with it.
Okay.
But basically, you know, I'm a photographer, but, you know, I also do acting, voiceover, design. I work on bonsai trees. So let's put it this way. It's between all of that, I'm usually pretty able to keep the stress levels pretty low.
Nice. In today's world, that's a good thing. Well, Jack of all trades, master of none. So I like it. I've kind of adapted for myself. Instead of the Jack of all trades thing, I kind of do multi-hyphenated now. I feel like I'm a multi-hyphenated person, actor, husband, you know, craft beer drinker, everything. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's like you can't really, you know, make it sound like, oh, this is what I do, and box yourself as one specific thing, because nowadays it's like people do so many different things, whether it's professionally or personally. So I usually just, at least for me, I sum it up and just say, I'm a creative. So
yeah,
that's it.
I like it. And for those of you that may question and everything here, I'm ruining the surprise, but I do have to explain, if you do watch the video, which we also do encourage, the background may not change from person to person, but I'm trying something. I did this especially for Paul. I am wearing my Chicago Cubs Wrigleyville jersey, hat, and I do have the win flag behind me. This is a Chicago Cubs win flag. Whenever they win a game, the flag goes up. Back in the day when, you know, cars and everything wasn't as a big thing, Wrigley Field would put up the W just to show the walking public that they won. And they also had a losing flag, but they don't do that anymore. But this is the win flag and Chicago flag as well, which has meaning. We'll maybe do that as another episode. I don't want to take away from Paul's, you know, personal stuff, but there are meaning to the stars, there are meaning to the blue stripes and everything here. So, so that's a surprise I was kind of keeping for Paul, but I just wanted to explain so people are going, what's in the background? What am I seeing? Why is that hat so weird? So
that guy is so weird.
Right, but it is in honor of Paul because he is in Chicago, from Chicago. But tell us a little bit about your journey. You haven't always lived there. It's not like you've been stationary. What have you been up to?
No, my wife and I, Jenny, gosh, that was it's been a while now, but we decided to make the trip from Chicago to Miami. And I don't know if you've ever been to Miami, if you know anything about Miami, and for anyone that's listening that maybe is from Miami, my apologies. But yeah, we were there for 7 years, and we went down for my wife to finish her undergrad, and then she wanted to do her grad school there. And surprisingly, you could have a whole podcast about the cost of college too, because Illinois
Definitely.
is not a good place for that. So that's why we did that, and talk about an interesting life experience for myself. I mean, I could not have been any more out of like the fish out of water. I mean, yeah, pretty insane. Um, if you ever want to know what it's like to be in a different country but still be here in the U.S., that is the place to go, because
Okay.
it's it's such a unique experience. Not all bad. There was good stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were down there for, gosh, I don't know, a good 7 years or so,
Mm-hmm.
which still blows my mind. And then we came back up to Chicago, and then we were back here again, and yeah, so here we are.
Well, and congrats to Jen for her accomplishments. And
Yeah, of course.
Florida Atlantic, if I remember correctly, is
No, Florida International.
International.
Yeah.
Florida International. So shout out to her and congrats to. She's a physical therapist.
Occupational.
I see. I'm hitting all of that. Yeah, I've known him for 27 years now. Yeah. So congrats to her for all that. That is huge accomplishments, and she's doing very well and enjoying what she's doing. So, kudos to her for following a dream and setting a goal and achieving it. Did you find differences? Not only just, you said kind of felt like living out in a different country if you wanted to kind of stay domestic but experience international, but was something difficult, or were there easier things down there? Were there more things that you enjoyed that you maybe couldn't in a Chicago that's very diverse?
It's being in Chicago. You have so many people that are born here, but their heritage is very important to them. So, they have like, for instance, Little Village. It's very strong on like Mexican culture, and other Hispanic cultures as well too. You have like little India, you have little Italy. I mean, you have like all these little like enclaves of people that they live here, and maybe they're kids that have been born here, but their culture is very important to them. So what I would say kind of the difference is that they kind of have integrated into U.S. society here. So you kind of have the like, oh well, we like McDonald's, but I also like this ethnic food, and
Right.
so it's stuff like that. Whereas down in Miami, it's a little more concentrated.
Okay.
Whereas it's like, yes, we live in the U.S., but we don't really necessarily care too much about that stuff. Our homeland is what's more important. So you have there's not a lot of fast food places down there. I mean, there are some, but it's mostly like little restaurants, I mean, you have a lot of it is you get like a lot of Cubans that live down there. You have a lot of people from like Venezuela as well too. So you get a lot of people that kind of flee. They left their country, and they came there, so they brought everything with them.
You find it was more authentic than maybe a Chicago?
Oh yeah. I mean, not taken away from, if you
go
into...
This isn't judgment. This is just experience.
Yeah. It's just a different experience. I mean, I would say, from being down there, like we went to, so there's an area that's called Hialeah.
Okay.
And so that city is the place where literally when people get off the boat from Cuba, that's where they go.
Oh, okay. First stop.
And so, but yeah, it's kind of their first stop a lot of times. And so you have a lot of these families where, they didn't like what they left, obviously. So that's why they're here. But you would have like these little, I don't even know what I want to call them, like a cantina or like a, I don't know, like a cafeteria sort of. and it's just, so it's like a lot of these people, these, older, like the abuelas, the grandmas,
Mm-hmm.
it's like they cook for their family, so that's what they did here. So you have like these kitchens, and it's basically
That's
like
cool.
if you picture, like, if you went to school and they had, like in, say, the 70s, 80s, whatever, and you'd have you think the your stereotypical cafeteria with the lunch lady and everything. That's what it's like.
Huh.
And it's not fancy or anything, but you go, and yeah, and that's the real deal. That's as authentic as you're gonna get. You have the people walking up and down the street selling different stuff. They have their little carts or whatever. So it's like, yeah, you have your farmer's market or whatever, but
Right.
chances are at the farmer's markets can be very different than, going to one here. But
Right.
so
Right.
it definitely opens up your eyes, to a lot of things if if you haven't really left the safety of your own home, or, if you live in a small town and that's all I would say, get out there and see what else there is, because maybe you like it, maybe you won't, but you know what? The more you can expose yourself to different cultures
Mm-hmm.
and different people and foods and everything, it's the more open-minded you'll be to life in general.
Yeah, and the more you learn, and the more you can experience and find out maybe something you like that you wouldn't have had any other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Which kind of brings me to you've actually reached you started or planted the seed to reach farther for yourself. It's my understanding that well, you let's define here. You are not Cuban,
As far as I know, I'm not.
but you are German, and very much a majority of German. So growing up where we did in McHenry, Illinois, through high school and everything, and visiting with Paul, I'm half German as well, but I didn't learn anything from my family about the history, and that's not a knock. That's just not how we work. We weren't based in, hey, we have this food or whatever. I actually learned so much from you, from Paul and his family, about the pickle and the Christmas tree and the different foods and all that sort of stuff, where I didn't know. And so you, being a majority German heritage, know so much, and you've actually taken a really interesting step in life. Do you want to explain kind of learning more about your heritage and what you've done?
Sure. So as a photographer, and I love history and everything too, and I'm really into genealogy, and so part of that was, so kind of sort of off track, but still, this is the long way of answering the question.
Yeah, no.
So we have a lot of old family photos. So the thing with old family photos is, and if you have some in your own house and everything, chances are you don't have the negatives anymore. So they may be your great grandpa, your grandma, or whatever. So that one photo, that's it.
That's
So if
it,
something
yeah.
happens to it, you have a house fire, whatever, it's gone.
Yeah.
So my mom has a lot of old photos and everything, and so we thought, okay, well, gosh, if something happens to those, that's it. They don't have anything else. And between all the sisters and everything, no one knows who has what, or so there are pictures that probably one sister hasn't seen, or maybe the other has, or who knows what. So as a Christmas gift, I took every single old picture we had for my dad's side of the family, and I scanned them all in, and I retouched them, I edited them, made them look like they were basically brand new again, and then I made a photo book. And so I gave that to them, and they're like, oh, wow, this is so cool. Oh, my gosh, wow. And so then the next year, I did the same thing for my mom's side. Now, my dad's side, it's kind of interesting that I can actually follow back pretty far. We actually have this weird, crazy book that I can follow our family back from
Nice.
the late 1600s,
Wow.
from when my dad's side left France and went wherever they went,
Right.
all the way up to when my grandpa was born. So that's the pretty crazy thing to have. So I can follow it all the way through that. But when it comes to my mom's side, just with World War II and everything, it's, a lot harder to figure stuff out, and where people are at or where they came from or finding records is that's a whole mixed bag of
Yeah,
chaos.
that's a job in and of itself.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I was kind of curious because I know one of the things that a lot of people here in the US do, because they have different backgrounds, whether you're Irish or whatever the case is, sometimes you have the ability to be able to get your citizenship. So, say for instance, if every country maybe has its different requirements. So,
Hmm.
what it's called is I think it's called what did I say it was? Oh gosh, la 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 la. And it's like ancestry through birth or something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact wording of it, but basically you can. So say if you have German heritage, let's say, and
Hmm.
you're curious. I wonder, can I get German citizenship by any chance? So again, every country, they kind of have their own requirements. Some let you do it, some don't. Some you really don't need much to prove. Some you need to hire like a team of lawyers to be able to figure it out.
Right.
So on mine, I was kind of curious about the German citizenship thing, and so it's citizenship through descent. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Um, and so basically, the way it works is if you can prove and you can follow it through whatever ancestor. So I thought I'd have to go back to like my great grandparents, but in
Hmm.
my case, it was actually just my grandma.
Oh wow.
So with that, all I
Not
had
as
to
not
do
as
was,
difficult.
well, yeah, it's not as difficult, but the thing is, and this is where it gets a little problematic for people, is that, places like that, the consulates, the countries, or whatever you want to call it, they require either originals or certified copies. So you can't just have, an
Gotcha.
old photocopy of, grandma's birth certificate. That
Right.
won't work. So,
Right.
and when you're not in the country, and say if you don't really speak the language, it also makes it even harder. So surprisingly, my mom actually had certified copies of stuff. So for my
Wow.
grandma, when last time she went in the 80s.
Okay.
So I had everything that I needed, did all the little paperwork, and the most amazing thing is that it didn't cost me a dime.
Wow.
The only thing that I had to pay for was, surprise, surprise, the stuff here in the U.S. So
Right.
like you have to do it's basically like a hardcore background check through the FBI. So that takes like a month or two, and you
Gotcha.
have to get your fingerprints done, and they send that, and they give you the results, and then
Hmm.
that's the thing that takes the longest usually. So
And so then you technically then now are it's a dual citizenship, right? So
Uh, yeah, it would be. So
okay.
I sent all the stuff off probably about last time I went to the consulate was I think like in maybe April
Okay.
or May. So basically it takes as much time as it takes. So I'm not
Gotcha.
sure exactly what happens next. I had everything, so I think they give you like a certificate of like certification, and then with that then you can go and you can get your passport and stuff like that.
That's
So
cool. It's
yeah.
that entertainment hurry and wait, send it in and see what happens.
Right,
But
exactly.
that's unique. That's something where you're kind of taking that extra step in learning more about your family and kind of you know yes, it's one thing to look at pictures. Yes, it's one thing to have stories. Yes, it's another to go to be able to afford to travel and see places or see a house or even meet up with family members that may still be there. But it's another to kind of really, you seem to have taken a more invested step, which I find very, very unique and very interesting because I didn't even know that was something out there. I mean, you hear of like dual citizenship all the time, but for me, I think my hearing that has always been like Canada. It's like, well, yeah, it's right there,
Right,
or
yeah.
something like that. Where UK, for some reason, is nowhere close. I understand my geography, but it just seems like a lot of people are, English and or British and American. So that's unique. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now
So
you want to use that. So being a photographer and tying that in too, Is that something that you would hope to be able to go over there and do? Are you more of a, I'm asking this for the purposes, obviously, because you're probably going to laugh since I've known you for so long, but are you more of a photographer that enjoys more of the landscape or more people, or do you, what if you had a perfect day of
So
filming or shooting, what would you do?
so the part of me that makes the money, which you can obviously you're allowed to do what you like
Hmm.
and still make money from it.
Right,
Um, but a lot of that stuff is more the commercial side. So
right.
it's like, you know, products and different stuff like that.
Hmm.
But for me personally, it's just kind of going out and taking the camera with you and, seeing where it takes you. However, the one thing that I will say is that for people that buy cameras and everything, or they have their phones and you know who you are, and you go outside and you're like, let's go for a walk into nature, yeah, nature. But then you see these people and they just have their phones and they're just in their phones and they're taking so many pictures with their phone, and it's like, yes, that's great. I'm glad that you have those pictures. You can share them on Instagram. You can share, to Facebook, whoever, and that's great. But you also have to be in the moment and be able to enjoy it yourself. So
Right.
I think there's that fine balance where if you're under a certain age, I feel like a lot of people kind of forget that.
Yeah, and that's true. And you still also, like you said, there's an aspect of you want to either monetize something or whatever, but you still have to enjoy it. I mean, especially as a photographer, you still have to find whatever it is in that subject that you're shooting to, that you find attractive or you find enjoyable, because otherwise it's just taking pictures and we can all push a button and take a picture, but being a
Yeah, I
photographer is
mean,
different.
and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've been out at some place, really stupid, but I see something that I'm like, oh, that could be a kind of a cool picture, and then you'll be sitting there for like 20 minutes trying to take this fancy photo of some flower or something you saw, and people are walking by like, what's wrong with this guy?
Right, right.
So, I mean, I've been guilty of it too, but
Yeah, I mean it's and that is, I mean, that's a key too. Like, we have been on such a journey through the past 27 years of friendship, where we've done so many different things. We've done the whole bussing tables and all that sort of thing as an actor, and then doing things in offices that we have to do and things like that. But I think it's still that creative spirit. It's still that something that there's nothing wrong with sitting in office. There's nothing wrong with having those jobs. They're very good if that's what you like. But the creativeness I think everybody has in them is just different. I can take pictures. I like to think that I can take something that's good. And for me, it's more nature. It's more things that are not, it's not really in my control, but it's not a subject where I have to worry about too much about like lighting or setting things up. I like to, here's some clouds, here's some trees. It is what it is, and the picture comes out based on whatever camera or phone or whatever I'm using. But you've got the technical skills of lighting, and you've done, food shoots and people and products and stuff. Is that difficult? Do you enjoy setting up and making sure there aren't shadows and things, or do you like the post production of things? Do you do a lot of editing to your photos?
I pretty much do everything. So that kind of comes in with the whole, having a million, random jobs or
Right.
whatnot. I mean, and for those of you out there that feel like you have a really crappy job, just remember, even the worst jobs, you always get something out of. So if it's not exactly what you want it to be, take what you can out of it. I mean, and for people, maybe they do work in an office all day long, but as long as you have something that you enjoy, that's what's important.
Yeah. Sometimes you
Um,
learn more of what not to do or not how not to be than what to do, and what, from a job. So,
exactly. And for me, I mean, I built, stage sets or designed, just all different things. And so that kind of helps for, at least for me, for what I do. So I feel like, you always, no matter what you want to do, you want to stack the deck in your favor. And, the way that you do that is you pick up as many different skills that are somewhat related to it as possible. And even it's good to have random skills that have nothing to do about it, you know? So if you
Right.
tell someone, I can burp on command, that has nothing to do with it, but it's such a weird thing that, you know,
It's
so,
getting them to remember that.
right, exactly. So, like, on my acting resume, I actually have that as one of the special skills, can burp on command. And and that's the other thing, don't put down something you can't do.
I was gonna say, so here it is.
Don't do that. That's
So
bad.
here's your test. Can he do it?
Yes.
There we go. It's kind
Wow,
of
man, we've really lowered the bar. I don't know if you
I
had a
know.
bar, but I think we just really lowered it.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta if you have it, flaunt it, right? That's what they say.
Yeah. I'm sure this will be the highest rated episode ever.
I know,
just
right?
because
I have
we're starting
flashbacks
a
of
whole separate school now.
yeah, I have flashbacks of Billy Madison when that kid is sitting at the table burping the ABCs, and he's just like, that is so gross, but so
Yeah,
cool. But
exactly.
so you are currently do you have things lined up? Are you working? Are there things that you're doing right now, photography wise, like your own business that you're starting that you kind of want to tell people about, or you kind of?
So, I mean, I've pretty much had my own freelance business for, gosh, 16 years.
Gotcha.
So, but I mean, I've worked normal jobs. So, right now, as the HR world likes to say, I am in transition.
Transition is freelance entrepreneur.
So,
Is there so we can find you on Facebook? Is there paullevan.com or something that's the best,
yeah,
or
I
what?
have my own website.
Okay, cool.
It's just paullevan.com. And that's
Perfect.
my portfolio stuff. And obviously, I'm on LinkedIn. Can say
LEVAN.
hello.
Yes. Drop a line if you. And anything from you have a wedding coming up. We're kind of out of the graduation season, but summer's here, so summer vacations. If you need a photographer, if you want that fall family picture or that Christmas picture coming up, headshots. Chicago actors, hit him up. He knows what he's doing. So once the world gets back to the way it needs to be, as we all know, for those that are in the industry and those that may not be, productions have shut down right now with a writer strike and with an actor strike. So it's kind of a catch-22. It's kind of like now's the time to like update headshots and do your thing so when things come back, you're ready. But at the same time, a lot of people can't do things because they're union and they're not supposed to be working. So it's that fine line of like, I will go out and tell you, currently, maybe someday with myself, Paul is not union, so you can hit him up. He can take your photograph. He can take your headshots. So look him up, paullevan.com. That's LEVAN. And yeah, so check that out. That's one aspect. Another creative, right? Taking my notes here too. You are into trees, but not just like the trees themselves like normal, but you've also visited the big ones, the what are they, the redwood sequoias or whatever, what's the tallest tree? I can't even think off the top of my hands, but you work with little trees is the point. You're a bonsai guy.
Yeah.
We still have
not a dirty hippie,
Oh no, I think it's so funny because it's such a again unique thing. That's why I wanted to have you on. Not only just friend and it's easy to talk to you, but like there's just different unique things that you go off on. That's why I think we've been friends for so long is because we work well together. I may be more of the business side or kind of straight laced, but I'm not. It's not like I'm a stickler or a weed in the grass, but I can keep things on track and do the business type stuff where you are more the creative. You're the ideas guy. I would never sit down and play with trees or try to figure out photography or even ancestry to figure that stuff out. I'll read and go, cool, I'm German. I'm half Polish too. Cool. So I love that about you and talk a little bit about like what. So bonsai is small trees. What define it for me? Because that's how I look at it. I go, they're so cute, but what are they? What do you like about them?
Yeah, that's basically what they are. So you're basically having a miniature version of something that you see in nature. So some versions are a little more like literal literal version of the literal definition of that.
Okay.
Other a little more artistic. So it just kind of depends on, there's really no right or wrong. So there's some pretty amazing people out there that they've been working on these things for 20, 30 years, and your mind is blown and you're like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Or you talk to the guy that I have this pine tree and it's 400 years old, and you're like, oh my God, that's insane. But
Yeah.
they're so cool. So it's basically, any shrub, any tree. I mean, anything. Like, some things work better than others because you want them to have smaller leaves. So if you have something that has these huge, massive leaves, it's probably not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But
and it's something that kind of, for you, is that kind of like your zen, your meditation? Is it something that feels like an accomplishment, all of the above? Like, is it like gardening in the sense of like, for me, I mean, find gardening fascinating because you can just put this little seed in the ground and then you'll have some food. Like I need that.
Yeah.
I need that like reward almost, like, okay, I'm gonna wait and then I'll have tomatoes and I'll have cucumbers or whatever.
It's all of the above and other.
Okay.
It's like for those of us that live in the Midwest, what is the absolute worst time of the year? The second half of the year, when it's cold and everything is dormant, and it's just you don't get to go outside. So the nice thing about this sort of stuff is, if you've ever lived somewhere where it's tropical, that stuff grows pretty much year round. So what's kind of the runaround, what's kind of the way through for us in the Midwest is, you find things that grow in tropical places, and then that way you have them inside, and then you can enjoy stuff year round. So when I was down in Miami, I had a lot of tropical little trees and things like that. So I still have some of them survived.
Good.
So they're inside during the winter, and they'll still grow. And obviously, you have to know how to take care of stuff. They need light.
Now, do you know how many you have?
You know what? This last year was sort of the great die-off, unfortunately for me. So I actually lost a bunch of stuff, which is really weird because it's like, with anything, you could do the same thing 10 times, and for whatever reason, it just will never come out the same each time,
Yeah. Miracle of nature.
Right? So it's kind of the same sort of thing where it's like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And, if you have a weird winter or, who knows? It could be a million different things. You could do everything right, and then Mother Nature decides, no, that's not happening.
Right.
So I have, some that are tropical. I have some that are just more from here, and those stay outside. And but right now, let's see, I'm looking out my window. I probably have 1, 2, 3, 4. I would say I probably have about between 15 to 20.
Okay. Nice. Now, is it the joy of do you have a goal in mind, I guess? Like, again, like I said, I plant a seed, I expect a tomato, type of thing. No matter what the seed, if it's a cucumber seed, I want a tomato. But do you have like, hey, I want this shape, or this is what I'm going for? Or is it literally just, I'm going to sit outside or sit inside wherever you do it, and it's the clipping, it's the shaping that you enjoy?
Well, I mean, maybe this does sound really hippie, but you let it tell you kind of what it wants to be. So if something is super tall and straight and seems like it's just like straight like an arrow, I mean, then you're not going to want to force it to be like completely bent over and everything. It wants to grow straight, so that's the way it's going to be. But maybe you have some that look like it fell over and it's like half dead. Okay, well, you can find those things in nature, so let it be that way too. Make it look like it's just, if it's already a little ragged looking, make it a little bit more ragged looking, So that's kind of where your creative, your kind of art sort of comes from.
Cool.
From that.
Now, I mean, if anybody out there is interested, Paul is he's got books. He's been doing this, like he said, for a long while. Hit him up. hit him up with questions or show, I would love to see the pictures. I know nothing about doing it. If you want to post comments and say, hey, here's my bonsai, or hey, reach out, definitely do that. That's the whole point of doing the podcast and having the guests that we do, is that interaction, that connection. So, because I love these topics. I love the fact that now we have photography, we've got the bonsai, we've got some international cultural things. We can go on for hours on all of these, and they can all be separate episodes, and they may in the future. Hey, if Paul's willing and guests are willing, we'll bring them back and do more. But I do want to thank Paul for your time. Thank you so much for chit-chatting. I feel like, I don't know, again, we can go for hours. It's just so cool and so interesting, but I definitely want to thank you for your valuable time. Please check him out, PaulLevan.com for photography. Find him on Facebook, find him on Instagram, all that sort of stuff, so that we can, maybe you'll be able to share your experience with him, just like I have over the past 27 years.
So many years.
I know, but I don't, my body feels old, but I don't act my age, so.
Yeah, the body makes a noise now.
I saw, with everything going on, I saw a meme the other day that had a t-shirt that said, it was in the form of Bath and Body Works and their logo, but it said, "My back and body hurts." And I'm like, yes, that's me. That's totally me. But yeah, anything else you want to close with, or anything there, Paul?
Anything else, man? That's, like you said, we could just go on for hours.
I know. I part of me feels,
we'll do an anthology.
I know. Part of me feels like I'm cutting things off, but again, I don't want to tell you a time that we've been recording, because who knows what magic of editing is going to happen. But I don't want to. We could be here for hours easily. And yeah, I just thank you very much for your time. We'll do it again and have you on for some more things, and maybe even if Jenny's willing to as well, kind of get into her occupational therapy things and maybe that realm, or her. She's got a unique story too.
That's true. That would be interesting, because
she's not American made.
Yeah, no, but she hates talking in front of other people, so she may be deathly afraid of this. I don't know.
Hide behind the mic. You're not being seen.
We'll see.
Awesome, though. Thank you so much, man. We'll be in touch as always. And to everybody out there, thank you very much. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Like, follow, subscribe. I hate being that person, but we got to do it. Keep listening, and we'll catch you next time. That's right. So we'll catch you next time. Shout out to Chicago, hometown. And we'll catch you next time. All right, which means new. See you guys. Thanks for hanging.